Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is really exciting. We still have a bunch of people coming in from all over. So really, really happy to be here. We have a wonderful panel set up for today. So just to give you a brief background, Hellenic Innovation Network is an outgrowth of MIT Enterprise Forum Greece and supported by the Consulate General of Greece and Boston. And it was created as a way to bridge the startup ecosystems of Greece to the United States by leveraging the power of the diaspora. This is our last Zoom event of the season, and then our last in-person event will be a life science event on May 4th here in Boston on life science, health tech, and med tech with two local lions of industry speaking, followed by pitches of Greek-founded startups that are fundraising now for their seed and Series A. We'd love for you to discuss with the group. This is very much an open discussion. Feel free to write your questions in the chat. You can start by telling us where you're coming from today. And now I'd like to introduce Stratos Efthimiou, who's the Consul General of Greece in Boston, who has tirelessly supported this effort over his tenure. This is his last HIN Zoom event as Consul General here in Boston. So I want to thank him for all his work. And Stratos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marina, for your kind words. It has been a pleasure and to working with you. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce Mrs. Alexandra Papadopoulou, the ambassador of Greece to the US, the first woman ambassador of Greece to the US, an ambassador with extensive experience in US, EU, and Balkan affairs, working for the improvement and advancement of the Greek-US relations. The ambassador has always extended her support to the activities of the Hellenic Innovation Network, and last year we had the honor to have her in the event with Minister Chirakakis. She has been supporting continuously the Consulate, and I want to thank her for her leadership, guidance, and continuous support. Ambassador, it is an honor and privilege to have you with us. Welcome to our event.
Thank you, Stratos. Yes, that's the last event that we're both participating. For you, for those of you who don't know that yet, Stratos is about to move to the European Union headquarters in Brussels as a member of the Greek delegation to the European Union. An amazing job, I think a challenging job. And Stratos, all the best, you deserve it. And I'm sure you're going to do an excellent job there as you did in Boston. And of course, thank you, Marina, for this kind invitation, and of course, and the close collaboration you enjoyed with the Consulate General of Greece in Boston. The collaboration between the Consulate General in Boston and the Hellenic Innovation Network is very important to us, and I hope it will continue with a Stratos successor. The Hellenic Innovation Network has been doing a remarkable job, as you all probably know, a job that is praiseworthy, and in order to promote Greek entrepreneurship and innovation bridges between Greece and the United States. These systematic efforts for the past 4 years have created connections, opportunities, and have led to high-level networking events, which have facilitated synergies, business collaborations, mentorships, and the promotion of a spirit of close collaboration that today bears fruits. Especially now as Greece's economy is taking off, the business climate has dramatically improved, the government has introduced attractive tax incentives, and the research and innovation ecosystems are developing rapidly. Of course, we need to ensure that Greece's economic development and growth create the conditions for sustainable development and more diverse growth. And this is very crucial, especially in view of the challenging times we're facing, all of us are facing, after the horrible events we witnessed in Ukraine in the past month. And gender equality is of capital importance in the whole scheme of things. You know better than me that in the global and Greek innovation ecosystems, most of the funding goes to all men teams. Women, for a variety of reasons, such as motherhood, stereotypes, professional social expectations, are overwhelmingly underrepresented in high growth entrepreneurship. This, of course, does not happen exclusively in the startup world. It is also the case in politics and diplomacy. And then, of course, there is the glass ceiling barrier. I think we all understand that without fully incorporating the other half of mankind into the world of production, the world is going to be much more poor. It's going to be devoid of the talent, the possibilities, and the fresh air that women bring to the world. As the first woman ambassador of Greece to the United States, I'm a testament to the great progress that Greek women have done in the last 20 or so years. So I would like to congratulate you for taking this initiative to invite 4 inspiring women, Hellenic women, from the technology and entrepreneurship world. 4 accomplished women who share their amazing personal stories of success and resilience. And I would like to personally express my gratitude to Marina Chatzou, the president of the Hellenic Innovation Network, for this initiative and all the noteworthy initiatives she has taken in the past. Marina is very well known and has to be praised for her extraordinary work in promoting business and creating business opportunities in Greece, but also for serving as a role model for so many young women who aspire to get into the business world. Thank you very much.
Marina, you want me to jump in?
Yes, please, Andreas, and thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thank you, Ambassador, for that great introduction. I'm only going to take a couple of minutes of the time before the panel just to also share how optimistic I am and how thankful I am for being included here. But just by looking at the faces and the names of the participants here, I can see the ecosystem that the ambassador talked about right in front of our eyes, right? I see investors, I see angel investors from Silicon Valley like Nick Arvanitidis, I see fund managers like Aristos Doxiadis from Big Pie in Greece, I see entrepreneurs like Vangelis Vergetis and others here, obviously the people who are going to talk about. So we're seeing this ecosystem that we've been talking about for years forming before our eyes. I've been a venture capitalist for 23 years and in California now for 25 years. And throughout that entire period, people come and say, how can we emulate the example of Silicon Valley in Greece, Poland, wherever? And they've always been thinking about it as a top-down edifice. And that's not how ecosystems get built. Ecosystems get built from the bottom up. And what I've always said about Silicon Valley is that the reason it's so resilient is because it's managed to form an equity economy, an economy that's based on the idea of equity and participation in each other's success, which then makes us all root for the success of others around us, because in one way or another, as investors, as employees, as founders, as service providers, as even restaurant owners that cater to this economy, we're all participating in that success. That equity economy is starting to be formed in Greece. Has been going on for a while, but I'm very glad to see how it's all finally coming together. And in that sense, the pandemic, if anything, I believe can have positive impact on the formation of that equity economy. If you think about what used to be the case, this idea of the 40-hour week, and when we think about work as a continuous, as a repetitive, a bucketized set of tasks, that's a product of the Industrial Revolution, right? It's more relevant to the last century, not the 21st. In the information age, the tasks that are going to be repetitive and predictable, they'll be taken over by machines and robots and computers and artificial intelligence and what have you. So the information worker's productivity is going to be driven less by just how many hours I put into my shift, let's say, and much more about what kind of bright moments of inspiration do I have. I'm an engineer solving a difficult bug. I'm a designer that had a moment of inspiration. I'm a founder that came up with a new idea, right? So usually productivity is more in relation to the number of these bright moments that we have versus how many hours we just put in doing something repetitive. So if you think about Greece in the past, what made Greece a destination was this idea that work and life are two distinct things, that I want to get away from my drudgery of work and go to Greece as vacation, right? That was supposed to be a zero-sum kind of thing. Sacrifice quality of life for career achievement, then get away, go to Greece and just have a great time by the beach. right? So tourism was the heavy industry for the country because it had been promoting this idea of getting away from your everyday life and work in order to have fun. And that made a lot of sense in the industrial age, but I argue doesn't make sense anymore. So the reason why I'm so bullish about the future, in addition to seeing the ecosystem forming with the investors and the founders and all that coming together, is because especially post-pandemic, I see Greece as having a potential pitch, let's say, as a destination where these bright moments happen. As we all care more about experiences, the quality of our mental health, the idea of life and work being sort of blended into one thing, I'd like to suggest that our productivity can be enhanced because of the quality of life, not instead of the quality of our life. So places like Greece that have spontaneity, that have the ability to have proximity to interesting things happening around one, I think will be particularly attractive for the future as companies become much more global and realize that they need to find talent, whatever that talent is. And talent increasingly wants to be in places where these bright moments occur and where their overall themselves and their families' happiness can be enhanced by the overall experience there. So there's real world examples, the Hellenic development. There's a lot of others that I think are happening underway that will be proof points to what I'm saying. But just to sum it all up, I couldn't be more excited about the new era that the country, specifically with respect to information technology and startups, has entered clearly. And I'd like to pass this over to Margo to start us off on the real important part of this hour versus us talking heads. So Margo, on to you.
Well, thanks, Andreas. And hopefully we can create a bright moment here, leveraging the Hellenic Network to get to know some incredible panelists that we have here. And why don't we just start by getting to know these incredible women who are inspiring in each of their own ways. Can you guys share what your company does and what inspired each of you to start your companies? Why don't we start with you, Maria, Dr. Dunford, we should say.
Thank you, Margo, and it's nice to see you again. So Lifebit is a company headquartered in London, but right now we have offices in US, in Hong Kong as well, and other European cities, including a team in Greece. Lifebit is bringing precision medicine to life. So we deploy an end-to-end software suite that helps effectively big government organizations, research institutions, as well as pharma to collect clinical and genomics data right from patient recruitment down to analysis then of these raw data to clinical interpretation, as well as research functionality for development of drugs and therapeutics. What inspired the creation of the company is the fact that I've been, I was a computer scientist, studied actually in Greece myself, in University of Thessaly, in Lamia actually. So started from very humble beginnings. And then started as a computer scientist, turned to bioinformatician, turned to biomedical researcher, and eventually as being a biomedical researcher, I found myself spending most of my day lost in the computational and data management hassles rather than the actionable findings that we were needing to get as researchers from the biomedical data and genetic data that we were analyzing. So that is what actually propelled me to create, as a researcher already with the team that I was working, different computational solutions to address a lot of this problem. And then eventually I started realizing that what used to be kind of like our niche small problem as a researcher started increasingly becoming the if you like, the real world reality, where now we are getting in clinical context a lot of not just clinical data, but also genetic data, as well as different lifestyle data that needs to be processed and made sense of.
Well, thank you, Maria. You're making a huge dent in a big problem that can really transform discovery in this important area. Why don't we stay on the same doctor theme? Let's go next to Dr. Maya Thanou.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. And hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Maya Thanou, and of course, I'm Greek. And I had also a humble beginning from University of Thessaloniki, Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Now it is becoming very famous. And I have been selected by the Greek Scholarship Foundation for a scholarship, for a doctorate scholarship, and I'm really grateful because then my journey began. I mean, it was a great journey during my studies and then my career. I always wanted to make my own things, my own innovations. So at some point, my projects were picked up by commercializations here in UK, in London, where I'm an academic actually, and they were picked up by commercialization projects, and afterwards they were given to me to make a commercial entity. I had no idea how to do it. So I knocked at the door of MIT Entrepreneurship Forum GR, Greece, Vasilis. So I asked, okay, Vasilis, what am I doing now? I have these patents, what am I doing? And then Vasilis said to me, okay, jump in the competition on the program. I said, okay, I mean, am I going to have a company afterwards? I said, well, we'll see. So he was really, he pushed me actually to the commercialization, to the entrepreneurship, and it was what I actually needed. I won the competition. It was a great experience, and then the whole story started with the company Apeikon becoming like a real startup, attracting funding immediately. I mean, it's even if it is only 1 year old, it has attracted funding. What the company is doing something really, really tough, because we are making new treatments for cancers. These are safe treatments, and they will be first in class at certain points. So we will have to go through regulation, through clinical trials, etc. So it is a little bit tough and needs guts to take it to the clinic and to the market. So this is where I am now. My Greek heritage helped me a lot. And I hope to help others as well, because there is a lot of talent out there. Even it is in Greece or it is everywhere in the diaspora, there is a lot of talent, and I'll be happy to connect with others to help them make their ideas, products, and companies.
Thanks, Maya. Super inspiring that you are a poster child for the process that we're talking about here today. Would love to hear from Eirini and your story.
You're on mute, Eirini.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Eirini Schlosser. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Dyania Health. For those of you who don't know what we do, we have built a very task-specific clinical natural language processing engine that can extract very specific clinical data points from medical histories of, particularly physician notes within the medical histories of patients that have very complex conditions within the oncology and autoimmune disease space. The use case of that is to be able to allow patients to qualify for clinical trials where the time sensitive criteria are quite restrictive, and the normal process of manual chart review just never really allow for these patients to be found. So the overall cost is time for patients who could potentially benefit from life improving therapies that are coming to market, as well as the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars to pharma, who spend on average 18 to 24 months just being able to recruit 150 patients for trials. So that's the problem that we've been solving. So how I got my experience in entrepreneurship started in the specific space, I was actually digitizing my father's patient records about 20 years ago. So as the only non-physician ultimately in my family, have been around the space all of my life, was finishing in biochemistry when I decided to not be a doctor, which I think is in some cases, a very Greek thing where we have been promoted towards certain directions of education, which has been quite entertaining how it has come 180. And I'm now back in the medical space, but I took a deep dive down machine learning. I had also done I was the president and co-founder, part of the co-founding team of the National Hellenic Student Association that we launched in 2009. And I actually see a few of our founding members on this call today. So that really speaks to the network. I think that the cross-pollination between Greece and the US has truly built. I think most people look at the brain drain back in 2010, 2011, and they think of it as just this permanent negative thing. But what it really allowed for today, if we fast forward a decade, is that suddenly we've had PhD students and fantastic scientists all over the world that are now interesting, able, and willing to work with Greece. And that for me turned into the most, the perfect network for the perfect storm of an opportunity, which I think we're all seeing here today, or else we wouldn't be on this call. So looking forward to discussing with most of you and how we can really capture the cross-pollination opportunity across both countries.
Thank you, Eirini. And who knows, maybe you and Maya can have a bright moment out of this and collaborate. I could see her eyes opening as you were talking. Eleftheria, this is wonderful to hear from you.
Hello, and thank you for the invitation. It's very nice and very inspiring, let's say, to be surrounded by so many scientists. I will not speak about my origins, but what we do is far more humble than all the rest ladies are doing, because it has to do with one simple thing, or at least it should be simple thing. The fact that people should be able to find the right doctor for them, should be able to have an easy access to healthcare systems, and should be able to take this health care that they deserve, instead of spending more of their time, energy, and money to go around and try to figure out who is the right doctor, to make difficult decisions, right? What is the right diagnosis for me among all those that are out there, and all in all, spend their time and energy on things that have nothing to do with their health. So I founded Doctor Anytime in 2012 with the vision to facilitate the needs of all healthcare providers and people all along the healthcare journey, so that we evoke feelings of security, trust, and peace of mind. I believe that, as proven by data, that we do it very well and very successfully in Greece for like 10 years now, in Belgium. And being a profitable company, we managed to fund our growth in LATAM, starting from Mexico, and we launched also in Colombia, Ecuador, and recently in Brazil. The whole thing started simply because when I was working, in big multinational companies, I'm a marketeer. I was deeply involved in the healthcare systems due to the fact that my father had cancer, and I lived the whole process and what it takes to have your beloved ones in this monster that it's called healthcare system, in the hands of this monster. My father eventually passed, and it became my obsession to change the system and to create something that at least is close to what we deserve. And here I am.
Amazing story. So many of the founders, right, all the founders here were inspired by something they saw, a problem that they wanted to solve. I think it's being bothered by the way things are is such a root, right, of what drives entrepreneurship. But getting started is not always easy. I think it would be great for the group to be inspired by some of the things that you all learned about getting started. Where did your first funding come from? What was the biggest challenge you had to overcome? And what was the biggest surprise that you may have found that was kind of a positive that propelled you onwards? I don't know if there's someone who wants to dive in first.
I'm happy to dive in.
Great.
So I think, firstly, I think for most founders, they really learn this after their first startup. But what took me 2 years to do in my first startup took me about 2 weeks in my second and third. And so it really is something that you just have to dive in and do it. It's not a skill set that universities necessarily teach. And it is something that you just have to be okay with failing, learning very quickly, and then pivoting in a slight direction to be able to adapt in real time. And I think that's the real skill set of an entrepreneur that becomes more seasoned. I think, and I'm sure even 30-year experienced entrepreneurs still struggle with it because it's a constant challenge, especially when we have a fast changing market. And the world has been fast changing and throwing us curveballs like we've seen the last few years. So I think being able to stretch and adapt is the first component. And then secondly, the resilience and grit through that's actually what got, I would say from my perspective, I think that's what won over my first investors. And it's really about developing the relationships over time. So my first institutional investor actually had known me for 4 to 5 years. And we had spoken on panels together, oddly enough. And so when I launched my second business, it was kind of the right point in time, and he led the round. But I think patience in terms of developing relationships is another key thing, because when an entrepreneur is quite bootstrapped, they just have to figure out a way to survive. Like my first business, it was in the more consumer space, and I was delivering food to be able to advertise in a cheap way our app. And that was, I had worked in some of the highest paying careers a 22-year-old could work in. And then I was doing that to make my company just stay off the ground and be able to afford paying my engineers and bootstrapping. And so I think the willingness to do anything to keep it going, that's anything, to make money legally is important. And I think that that's something that a lot of people may not have the interest to do, but they have to know that that's what's coming if they don't have an investor lined up. And I think that's if they can get around that and they're comfortable with that, then it's just about diving in and going down the path and not really looking back.
Thanks, Eirini. Maya, you are such an extraordinarily accomplished scientist who had all these incredible patents, and you talked about the moment, right, when you decided to dive in and commercialize. What did you learn from trying to pull all this together? Because certainly it's no mean feat to create therapeutics and the enormous cost and complexity.
Yeah, it was. I had really to take the dive. It was really difficult to be encouraged. But as I said, I had a lot of good mentors and a lot of helpers on that believed in the technology. I validated the technology a lot before patenting, so I was very certain of what I was patenting. What I was patenting, not as a company but as a university. So my college promoted these patents, and eventually they came back to me to commercialize them. But it was really what was the most important thing. It was just seeing this technology again and again, and also working in your hands, my hands, in my collaborators' hands, in other laboratories. And when you have such a compelling data, then you say, okay, this has to move to the people. People have to benefit out of it. So I think this is the drive for me. Making something good for society, for community, for the patients, for the cancer patients. So this is the biggest drive.
Makes such a difference. I know, Maria, for you as a researcher, you saw this huge opportunity for innovation and enabling so many more companies to innovate faster and more collaboratively. would love to hear more about how you got it all off the ground from the beginning.
Yes, absolutely. So I will agree again with both Eirini and Maya. In the very beginning of every entrepreneur, you need to somehow find certainty and breach the, if you like, all of the unknowns that you have at that point. So as such, my recommendation here is like, yes, either patent and validate your technology that literally can cure cancer if you can, or if you cannot have that, then I would suggest start from an accelerator like we did. We started from Techstars, in particular Techstars London. They literally, as I like always to say, we started as a project, and then by leaving Techstars, we were a proper company. So they teach you everything, so you don't need to kind of like, build and fail companies 3-4 times to actually get the learnings. So that definitely speeds it up. And they were also our first investors with 120K ticket, which was good enough for us to get a couple of engineers to get the prototype going. But more importantly, they taught us how to actually fundraise. So we got almost $2.5 million in fundraising just after 2 months leaving Techstars. And that was our seed round, followed by almost like 18 months later by our Series A at 10 million, and then followed by 1 year after our Series A on a 60 million with Tiger Global leading it. So it's definitely what I would say, like the big learning there is find shortcuts. And everything in entrepreneurship is going to be playing against you. Everything is against you, right? So you need to be smart, and you need to be on the ground, and you need to see what is your shortcut. Obviously, if you have a curing for cancer in your hands or something you can very strongly patent it, that's a really strong shortcut. If you can have investors that can back you up because they know you and believe in you, that's a shortcut. If you don't have any of these things, like I didn't, then find an opportunity that will give you. And for that, I would definitely recommend Techstars as an incredible accelerator for technology companies. But obviously for other sectors, there might be better accelerators or ways of propelling. But my advice here is like, think very well about your shortcuts.
Thanks, Maria. Eleftheria, you obviously were bothered by the way things were with your father's treatment and inspired you to create this incredible global platform to help millions of people. Would love to hear how you got started in the beginning and what was that magic moment that helped you take off?
I don't believe in magic moments, neither in luck. I think that it takes a lot of hard work, in the sense it sounds like very common what I'm saying, but it takes a lot of market understanding. I'm a marketeer, as I told you at the beginning. So what I did is what I know best, to understand my market, to understand the needs of the people I'm addressing to, like doctors and patients, and find ways to reach, to touch their hearts and their lives. Everything becomes much easier after that. So at least you have in your hands a need-based product, which ensures that one way or the other, if you sell it correctly, or at least try to sell it, you will have your first traction. And this is what happened with me. Of course, all odds were against me, because I was very unlucky to start in Greece. In a period of time when startups in Greece was something like a curse. In a period of time that, I was my company was among the few companies that existed back then. I can share with you a first experience that I had with, I was working, for prestigious companies till then, and I was managing, big budgets. And everybody was picking up their phones when I was calling, and they were very eager to help me, whatever I needed. And when I called them as a founder of Dr. Anytime to help them, to ask them for PR, for some support, from some advertising, nobody was there. Nobody. They said, okay, let me see, but I don't know. And what is this exactly? And all this stuff. So nobody is eager to help you and support you when you have something totally different. I wouldn't say innovative, but at least different from what they know. And so are investors. So at the beginning, I asked help from a friend. And I was lucky enough that he understood business, and he gave me the first funds to start. And then I got on board one more, and that was it. With this money, I managed to make the company profitable. And from that point and on, grow from within. So the journey is definitely difficult, and entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And if you ask me, I don't know yet if it is for me. It's also for me, but at least it gives me, all those happy moments that you create something, and looking back, you say yes. If you stay faithful and and on track on your vision, at the end of the day, you say yes. It's worth it. It is worth it.
Thank you. Well, it's the lives that we're able to have the privilege to impact that I think motivates all of us as founders. It would be great. Eirini, I remember earlier in our conversation, right before the session started, you talked about what it was like to have dual operations in both, say, in your case, the US and Greece. And what did you learn from being able to access talent in multiple places, and any tips as people think about connecting into that wonderful talent base in Greece?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was kind of the example of an entrepreneur who went to Greece to open up a subsidiary during COVID, which also happened to coincide with Minister Kyriakakis's digitization of many services. So there are some services that I experienced in kind of the very traditional form, which meant that you really had to have a good accountant and a good lawyer and someone who could navigate the system that's been in place. And then there's been a lot of services that have now been digitized and have made it as easy as opening up a company in Delaware. And so I think streamlining that and having a very good understanding of how the two jurisdictions change and like what are the types of legal entities, like that's just the basic starting point. And what does that mean from a tax perspective, et cetera? I think having a good handle on that is the first step to being able to really truly utilize an in-house subsidiary and set up in Greece. And then secondly, and that sounds basic, but it hasn't been from a Greek perspective. And I know that most Americans would not be able to just arrive in Greece and just open up a subsidiary. Like they wouldn't be able to figure that out because it's not that easy if you're not a native speaker. And then secondly, I think that there's been a few creative, I would say, there's been a few gaps where I took the creative business hack to be able to access some fantastic talent. So particularly, we annotate and train our natural language processing algorithms. And I knew that physicians in Greece that were just graduating often had a gap of 2 and maybe up to 5 years before starting their residencies. And that for me was an opportunity, not only to be able to hire full-time physicians, but to be able to train young physicians who'd not been just in the healthcare system for 20 years. And we had 24-year-old physicians in Greece learning how to code in Python. Like that's talent I couldn't replicate anywhere in the world. Absolutely. Like it's just, it's not replicable. And especially for the cost space that we did it. So I think that any American company going to Greece usually thinks that they have to spend a lot of money on just certain talent pools. And Greece is probably some of the most competitive talent in terms of cost that I've seen both across the EU as well as India, where I've outsourced teams in the past. So I think that's, yeah, if you have a good partner to go into the market with, then you should be in good hands, but it's about being creative about the opportunities to incorporate talent into a promising business model.
Thanks, Eirini. So inspiring to hear. Maybe you'll create a whole bunch of additional entrepreneurs with those doctors that now know Python. Who knows? You may be a whole set. Maria, I know you have a significant operation in Greece. Can you share a little bit about how you've created that collaboration and making it work?
Absolutely. So in our case, we went a little bit less creative than Eirini, and we just threw money to the problem. So effectively, we are just bypassing the system, hiring everyone either directly as subcontractors or via HR companies, which also work very well. They're a little bit more expensive, but that works. So that is because I agree with Eirini, is just too complicated to do things in Greece. Of course, now we are eventually, you need to, though, I also agree with Eirini, eventually you need to be taking the long route and establishing a company here. What we've seen is that the talent needs that. They need to feel, especially in Greece. So in Greece, loyalty plays a big role. Maybe I also agree with Eirini. They're definitely not among the cheapest people you can get in Europe, or potentially if you compare it to places like India, but definitely they are very loyal and very smart. And that also is something that they seek from a company. They seek the loyalty from the company. They want to feel that the company is established in Greece, that they are part of a family in Greece. So they want to have a proper company here. So that's why we're now taking the long route, and we're doing all that Eirini said, basically trying to find a really good lawyer, really good financial people. And obviously, again, as Eirini said here, it's that, of course, is a big threshold for a startup coming from abroad, right? It's just too much, right? And you don't also have the money. Now as Lifebit, we do have the money. We are profitable in terms of our revenue, plus we got big investment. But a young startup that does not have that money, it's a little bit too much to overcome as a barrier, I do believe.
There's a question in the chat, Maria. What are the main specializations that you're trying to recruit in Greece?
I mean, so we are recruiting across everything, but as one would suspect, engineers of all types, front-end, back-end, machine learning engineers, DevOps engineers, and a lot of the people that we have here in Greece are engineers. Then, like Eirini said, we have now a special program where we are actually trying to recruit bioinformaticians in Greece. It's a little bit difficult for us because they do not have, they lack a lot of the experience, so they will need special training. But we do have, I encourage that to come, right? We're not, at this point, we're not hiring as many, but we are starting to hire some special people, let's say, that we feel very confident we can train very fast. And we're hoping in the years to come, with more funds in the company, to actually have a broader program where we actually directly from the universities, at least with the big master programs, there are not that many anyhow in Greece, and train that talent. But then we know that they're going to be loyal to us, also because there's no other opportunity in Greece. So here we go. So bioinformaticians as well. And then on the business side, we are looking, we have, for example, hired some really great marketing people, sales support people. So we have still open positions across those roles. And anyone else that thinks that they can add value to Lifebit, we're always open to hearing out and then consider.
Thanks, Maria. Maya, are you doing any work in Greece or mainly elsewhere?
At the moment with collaborators, so I'm just lucky because I have nice collaborators that they have excellent talent, so that immediately I could recruit here, or working at both places, in the laboratories in the universities in Greece as well as here. So, but I do have my, how could I say, access to all of the universities with collaborators in various areas. So I do have access for young talent, and I really appreciate them. Yeah, I have one of my collaborators here in Apeikon is Greek with degree in chemistry and entrepreneurship degree. They are super talented and very well trained.
Thank you. You know, I'm just thinking we're getting towards the top of the hour, and as we want to look ahead, you have all learned such tremendous amounts. You have all these successful companies. You know, what's the next big milestone that you're focused on? And what's the one piece of advice that you would have given to yourself when you got started? As we have a lot of people on this call that want to follow in your footsteps. Eleftheria, we should start with you for sure.
Well, in our roadmap definitely is to win LATAM. Since we started there, it's essential for us to win the game, especially in Mexico and Brazil. And it's a personal bet as well, because I see a lot of similarities between Greek and LATAM culture. So I really understand how those people feel, and strongly believe that Doctor in Time will will give them exactly what they need. So in terms of given the fact that we are a sales but also product driven company, on the sales part, this is the objective, to win LATAM, but there are many exciting things coming on the product side as well, like definitely making Doctor Anytime a healthcare companion, which means helping with AI technology to truly to understand your needs, what is your symptom, give you guidance on which kind of doctor you should look at, connect patients and doctors. We already do that through chat and video consultation, but in a more frequent basis. And the medical file is also extremely important. Share your the diagnosis with different doctors. Keep your medical data in one in one place, and have access to that, and not ask different doctors and in healthcare institutions, but also get some guidance for your overall healthcare, given the fact that Doctor Anytime is not just giving access to some certain specializations of doctors, but to all of them. And not only doctors, but also dentists, beauticians, psychologists, which in total takes care of your mind, your soul, and your body. So this is where I'm planning to get Doctor Anytime, and I believe it's going to be a very exciting future for healthcare, for people, and for us.
Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you for that inspiration. Maya, what's the one big milestone you're focused on, and one piece of advice you would have given to yourself when you got started?
Yeah, the next big milestone for us is mainly to persuade more pharma and medtech companies, the large companies, to collaborate with us in this journey, because it will take a lot of support from people that they have done it before. So this is the biggest challenge, and in fact, actually change the way they operate and the way they think. So we're a little bit disruptive. So this is a really big challenge, to persuade these large companies to co-develop or partner with us in to achieve our clinical targets. So if I was to give an advice, I would have said to myself, okay, just do it. I mean, don't wait until someone says to you, your patents are good, what you find out is good, go and do it, go and make a company. No, just do it. The moment you validate your technology or your idea, either it is, something like it is experimental or tech or computer tech. I mean, the moment it is validated and there are potential users and customers of this technology, please do it. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We need the new products, new solutions.
I think that's a great transition. Right back to you, Maria.
So big milestone for the company, as I like to say, is world domination. And how we define world domination is having more than currently having basically becoming the biggest network of patient data in the world. And we have a big roadmap of recruiting or helping to bring to life and diagnose more than 5 million patients right now. So we're very happy. We're building very fast towards that. In terms of advice that I would give myself, I would just agree with my just do it. Like life is too short, and we're not here just to consume air. So if you have a great idea and passion, and you wanna, that's the legacy you wanna leave, just go do it. But as I like to say, the road ahead, it is difficult, right? Don't let anyone tell you that it's not. So be strategic. So yes, just do it, but be strategic while doing it. And again, as I always like to say, think of your very carefully of your shortcuts and the things that you can actually do to improve your chances for winning at every step. And also, for example, there is a question in the chat about investors and how you would choose investors, which obviously that's a big part on like on improving your possibilities for success. My big advice there is conviction. Never go for an investor that does not have a big conviction in you and what you do, even if they are ready to sign a big check for you, or even worse, try to, when we went through Texas, we said like, we're going to give this 2 months with my founder. And we said like, if we don't fundraise the money that we need, and we needed a lot of millions to, from a get-go with like a lousy prototype at that point, we're like, that's fine. People don't have that conviction. We have so many other things that we can do in our life and other ways to do the impact that we want to be doing, right? So that's what I would say. Look for that conviction and do whatever it needs to build that conviction.
Great advice. Just do it. Have conviction with your investors, because it's going to be a long haul with lots of ups and downs, so they've got to be believers. Eirini, you're a multi-time founder. What's your next big goal, and what might you pass along?
Sure. So I think, at the moment, like every startup, you often have a chicken and egg problem. So, we're at the same time working on a few clinical trials that are confidential with the specific pharmaceutical groups, but on the side of team expansion to then meet those needs and making the right hires in the right timeframes, and then having the right amount of capital on board, and then the right investors. It's really like threading a needle between triangulating all of those components. And so I think the biggest difficulty is having all of those things happen at the right time that they need to. And so the balancing act is really about understanding both sales cycles with clients. And so what we're getting to is launching our first live trials at a few of the large academic healthcare systems in the US. And then at the same time, we're gearing up for a larger Series A towards the end of the year. So those are 2 big milestones. And then I think if I had any advice for myself 2 years ago, it would have been, besides trying to find a crystal ball to know that COVID was going to happen the month after we raised our first pre-seed funding, I think it would have been around, really narrowing down and just sticking to what the core product was even before COVID, because I think there were a lot of distractions that made it difficult for teams to really adapt, especially when people were used to an in-person environment. And so recruiting, I think there's a lot of advice that I would have been trying to give to myself around people being comfortable working virtually, and how to hire and expand teams when you've never met the people in person. And so I think, yeah, my advice would be around teams. And then to comment on the investor side, I think it really is a multifaceted investor profile that we really like. And the first thing, for lack of better description, is really just a gut feeling of having a strong relationship and the ability to communicate effectively with the particular investor. And then the second component is domain knowledge and the fact that they can understand exactly what the business needs could be. We just actually got commitment from one of the biggest names in the industry, and it's not because it's the biggest name in the industry, it's because they know what our needs are. And the fact that, like, for example, pharma sales cycles could be 12 months. A generalist venture capitalist is not necessarily going to understand that if they're used to immediate sales cycles of, okay, here we have 1,500 new customers a week or a month or whatever growth means in their normal domain of expertise. And so I think domain, particularly in the healthcare space, is quite relevant.
Very true, Eirini. Great advice. Such amazing women. I love women in science making a huge difference in lots of people's lives in really meaningful ways. Thank you all for being here today. And I'll turn it back to Marina for some closing thoughts on this great network that we're all part of.
Yeah, so I was busily jotting amazing quotes from everyone that we're going to write up afterwards, and we have a recording that we will share with everyone. So to close it out, we will have Antigone from MIT Enterprise Forum Greece. Thank you all so much for participating today, and thank you all also to the audience for being part of this community and helping to reach the diaspora in Greece that's all over the world. So Antigone, it's you.
Good evening to everybody from Mid of Greece. Thank you all. And let me briefly share a few words about this year Mid of Greece startup competition with you. We're running 4 specialty tracks: general, energy, life science, and transportation, maritime, and logistics this year. We host 27 teams, out of which 25% are not Greek founders and 30% are women entrepreneurs. The teams we're accelerating this year have been, I believe, the strongest since 2015 when we ran our first cohort. They are an incredibly diverse group of exciting technology startups at various stages in their development cycles and with different goals. Let me share some statistics with you. According to data collected at the end of 2021, Mid of Greece have supported more than 177 startups. 57 of those, 32%, continue to grow globally, have raised more than 100 million euros, and created more than 680 new jobs, generated annual revenues of over 74 million. What you need to keep from these numbers is that Mid of Greece, during the past 8 years, have managed to give back to the community 100 times the money received from sponsorship and donation, which is really amazing. So going back to the competition, we're close to complete our accelerator program, consisting of 17 well-designed online workshops with intensive mentoring with local and international mentors. On April 27, we will have the pitch night event, which you can watch through live streaming. Soon after that, the second judging round, the announcement of the finalists, some additional webinars, and then June 17, the final judging. Next day, Tuesday, June 28th, we'll have the award ceremony with physical presence, also broadcasted, of course. So save the date. Don't miss the opportunity to listen to our finalist speeches and celebrate the winners of 2022 competition. Please follow us on the social media, visit our website, and watch for all the events we're planning for the near future. Thank you all. Have a nice night here in Greece, nice morning in Boston, nice afternoon in London. Thank you. Bye, all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.